Air Board members do. This is an Assembly Appropriations referred to the suspense file. We anticipate the suspense file being heard on May the 16th. And then lastly, SB 1158 by Senator Archuleta. This is, if you recall, the Karamora bill. This bill got amended, and it's only going to now, if you recall, increase the length of time for liquidation. This bill was ordered to the floor on consent calendar on the 7th, and hopefully today it will be heard on the 7th on the consent calendar on the Senate floor. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Derek.
Speaker, answer the green.
Is there any public comment on this item? Any in the room here? And none online? Great, thank you, Wayne. We'll move on. We'll move on to item number 2, recommended positions on state bill. We have 4 bills. And what I'd like to do is just to make this organized so we get through everything is we'll go through each bill, presentation, we'll have questions, then we'll have public comment, then we'll come back and vote on all bills at the same time, one at a time. With bill number 1, AB 2851, Banta Metal Shredding Facilities, Philip Crabb III, Senior Public Affairs Manager, Legislative Public Affairs and Media. Philip, I understand, is today your 29th birthday? Was I off a few years?
Just a few years above that. Thank you very much, sir. Well, good morning, Chair and committee members. AB 2851 would require the Department of Toxic Substances Control, in consultation with local air districts, to develop and implement facility-wide fence line air quality monitoring at metal shredding facilities. South Coast AQMD passed Rule 1460 that applies to metal recycling and metal shredding facilities and focuses on minimizing fugitive dust emissions. These facilities are also subject to South Coast AQMD Rule 403, which applies to any activity capable of generating fugitive dust. AB 2851 will have an impact on the agency's regulatory activities relating to this sector. Staff have concerns that the bill's timelines are too short and the bill is drafted too broadly. It should also be noted that fence line monitoring is not DTSC's primary area of expertise. Consequently, if air districts are needed to be more involved in the monitoring efforts, then it may require substantial air district resources. There are also questions as to how to monitor for light fibrous material included in the bill. Thus, staff recommends the following bill amendments. Number 1, add provisions to the bill that require local air districts to be reimbursed by DTSC or metal shredding facilities for any costs air districts incur in implementing this bill. Number 2, establish a longer time frame to initiate air monitoring. Number 3, provide an off-ramp if air monitoring shows that respirable metal particles are below a specified threshold. And finally, number 4, delete light fibrous material from the list of items to be included in the facility fence line monitoring requirements. Thus, staff recommends a support if amended position on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Committee members, any questions for staff? See none. Let's go on to the second bill, SB 1054 by Senator Susan Rubio, Climate Pollutant Reduction and Homes Initiative Natural Gas Customer Credit. Denise Peralta Gailey, our Public Affairs Manager, Legislative Public Affairs and Media. Denise, go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning. This bill would, until January 1, 2029, establish the Climate Pollution Reduction in Homes Initiative to provide financial assistance to low-income households for the purchase of zero carbon emitting appliances. The program would be funded by revenues received by gas corporations as part of their greenhouse gas allowances. The bill aligns with South Coast AQMD's AQMP and goals of reducing harmful emissions and protecting public health. Staff recommends the support position. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Committee members, any questions for Denise? Yes, Councilmember Rahman has a question.
I had a question about what these funds are being utilized for now that would fund this program. Is it taking away from existing programs or is it using underutilized funds?
So these funds would be generated by the climate credit. So the climate credit, 85% has to go directly back to ratepayers and 15% can go to efficiency programs. And that's essentially where this funding would come from.
But is it being utilized already for other programs right now, or is it programming unutilized funds, or is it reprogramming existing funds usage?
It's reprogramming existing funds. There was another program that the funds were being used for, but that program had a sunset last year.
Thank you. That helps.
Committee members, any more questions? Okay, then we'll move on to the third bill by Becker, SB 1095, Cozy Homes Cleanup Act. Philip Crabbigan.
Thank you. At last week's board meeting, an action was taken to send SB 1095 Becker back to committee to consider opposition to this bill by the California Manufactured Housing Institute and Western Manufactured Housing Communities Association. As a recap, this bill was passed by this committee at its April meeting with a support position recommended to the board. The bill would update ambiguities and clear legal hurdles in existing law to ensure that individuals can switch from gas to electric appliances, thereby allowing Californians to opt for healthier zero-emission homes. Letters are included in the committee meeting packet that confirm that both of these stakeholders have withdrawn their opposition to the bill due to recent amendments and negotiations. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. I saw those letters. Committee members, any questions for staff? Seeing none, let's move on to the final bill, SB 1298 by Mr. Cortese, certification of thermal power plants, data centers. Denise again.
This bill would authorize the CEC to exempt a thermal power plant with generation capacity up to 150 megawatts from their power plant siting review process. The current exemption is 100 megawatts. Numerous data centers with large diesel generators as a source of backup power have been installed through the CEC's small power plant exemption program. These generators emit cancer-causing toxic air contaminants, including diesel particulate matter, criteria air pollutant, and greenhouse gases. The risk to public health and in the environment from the operation of diesel-fired generators is significant. Raising the exemption threshold will encourage larger diesel generators to be installed, resulting in even more negative impacts to nearby communities. The bill is opposed by CAPCOA and staff recommends an opposed position. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Committee members, questions for staff? Seeing none. Now we'll open to public comment. You've got 3 minutes and there's 4 bills. You can comment on all 4, but you have 3 minutes to comment. We'll give you a few minutes to raise your hand on Zoom. Again, this is commenting on item number 2 on our agenda, recommended positions on state bills, and there's 4 bills, AB 2850, SB 1054, SB 10, and SB 1298. Is there anybody in this auditorium that would like, or Oasis room, who would like to testify in any of these bills? Seeing none online, Wayne, staff says there's nobody online. Give you a few more seconds to raise your hand. Again, item number 2 on our legislative agenda, recommended positions on state bills. Mr. Krakow, would you like to testify? We'll close the public comment period as I don't see any hands raised, and we'll vote on each bill. First bill is AB 2851, Bonta, that's the metal shredding. Our position again, one more time, is
Support if amended.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move. Salache.
Second.
Moved by Salache, seconded by Mayor Dawson. Roll call, please.
Mayor Lock Dawson,
Aye.
Supervisor Hackman, absent. Supervisor Perez, absent. Councilmember Rahman,
Yes.
Mayor Solache,
Yes.
Councilmember Caccioli,
Yes,
motion passes 4-0 to absent.
thank you. Next bill, SB 1054, Susan Rubio, Climate Pollution Reduction in Homes Initiative. And our position on that was support. Was that correct?
Support.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move the item.
Moved by Mayor Salache, was seconded by Mayor Lock Dawson. And roll call, please.
Mayor Loc Dawson,
Aye.
Supervisor Hagman, absent. Supervisor Perez, absent. Councilmember Rahman,
Yes.
Mayor Solache,
Yes.
Councilmember Caciotti.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 to absent.
SB, which one are we on now?
1095,
1095 Becker. And what's our position on Becker?
support.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on Becker.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Loc Dawson, seconded by Councilmember Rahman. Roll call, please.
Mayor Loc Dawson,
Aye.
Supervisor Hagman, absent. Supervisor Perez, absent. Councilmember Rahman,
Yes.
Mayor Solache,
Yes.
Councilmember Caciotti.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 to absent.
Thank you. Final bill we're voting on is SB 1298 Cortese. That's a certification of thermal power plants data centers. Our position is opposed.
Correct, opposed.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Who moved that? Okay, moved by Councilmember Rahman, seconded by Mayor Solache. Roll call, please.
Mayor Loc Dawson,
Aye.
Supervisor Hagman, absent. Supervisor Perez, absent. Councilmember Rahman,
Yes.
Mayor Solache,
Yes.
Councilmember Caciotti.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 to absent.
Thank you. Move to discussion items. It's the update on federal legislative issues. That's item number 3. No motions are required. And let's begin with our first consultant, Gary Hoitzma from the Karma Group. Gary, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick update today on the status of the congressional agenda looking out to the end of the year. You know, we've reached a point in the year, the election year, where we don't expect much of big significance to get done. But there are several bills, obviously, that are on the agenda that are going to get work on them. I'll just go through them quickly. Federal FY25 appropriations, obviously, will be punted till after the election. Then you've got the National Defense Authorization Act, the Farm Bill, the Federal Aviation Bill, and the Water Resources Development Bill. All of these will get work. A couple of them have a chance of passing, but most likely will be extended till after the election. And that will conclude my report today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Committee members, any questions? See none. Move on to next, Jed Dearborn with Cassidy and Associates.
Thank you, Mayor Caciotti and members of the committee. In addition to the support noted in my written report, Cassidy is working with the district to advance legislative language requested by Senator Padilla's office. Specifically, the language directs the Department of Energy to research and test low or zero emissions ocean-going vessels and to assess the efficacy of pollution control technologies on those vessels. I'll be sure to keep this committee apprised of the status of this language as Congress works through the appropriations process. Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Jed. Any questions for Jed? See none. We'll move on to Mark Kadish. Mark, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Brief addition to our written report. We're working to support the South Coast Climate Pollution Reduction Grant application to get a congressional support letter. And I'm happy to say that Senator Padilla, as well as Congressman Aguilar and Congressman Cardenas, have agreed to lead that letter. And we're in the process of getting those signatures and other members of the delegation to support. And we'll update you as soon as we can when the letter is final. That concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Kadish? See none. Before we go to state, I just had on the Carmen Group, I was just reviewing a quick about a dozen grant programs there. Wayne, was interested in one. We're looking at railroads. There's one by the FRA, Federal Railroad Administration. Availability of $2.4 billion in grants under Consolidated Rail Infrastructure Safety Improvements. Applications due May 29th. Are we maybe looking at that, maybe coordinating with the railroads or anything? Do we have any idea with legislative staff, Lisa?
Good morning, Vice Chair. So actually, we have been looking at the CRISI program. It has a lot of sort of restrictions on it and what can be applied. So I think we're still looking at it with TAO, but it's mostly for short line versus like the large class one railroads.
Okay, just I won't go into detail, but there's about 8 or 9 great grant programs that are listed under the Carmen Group. Do we actually work with our consultants on that, or I don't, we don't have time, but if you can just give me
Yeah, so we do monitor all of the grant programs and assess which ones we would like to apply for. I think currently the program that we're looking at is the EPA Clean Heavy Duty Vehicles Program. 70% of those funds will go for school buses and the remaining 25% for class 6 and 7 heavy duty vehicles, like waste haulers and other kinds of equipment. So that's the one I think we're looking at the most right now.
Chair, if I may, I'd also like to ask Dr. Katzenstein if you could comment on that as well, because I know we're looking at those provisions as well.
Yeah, hi, Chair. Just to add to what Lisa had mentioned, so for the FRA grant, we do coordinate also with the California Air Resources Board, and we understand that they're going to be applying for an application under that grant opportunity. So that's going to be actually, if they get that grant award, it would be stacked with some RVW programs. So they have found a little niche in that opportunity that they can apply for. And as Lisa mentioned, that we're going to be applying for the class 6 and 7. It's for school buses and also for medium duty transport. So that's something we're looking at right now. But we're working with CARB to see who's going to apply, because we don't like to compete with the state application.
good strategy. Thank you very much. Committee members, any follow-up? No. Okay, let's move on to item number 4, update and discussion on state legislative issues. We'll start with Mr. Quintana.
Thank you, sir. The only thing I'd like to add that's not in my report currently is that, as you know, the governor is supposed to put out his revision to the January budget on no later than May 14th. He has moved it up to tomorrow, May 10th. It should be at 11 o'clock. We're hearing he's going to give top lines, and then with more detail coming on Monday. As you know, there's been about a $25 billion delta between what he says the deficit is and what the LAO says the deficit is. So we're all kind of curious to see where this is gonna come out. We do know that tax receipts have been considerably lower than the governor had projected. So that'll be tomorrow at 11.
Committee members, any questions? Welcome, Supervisor. Okay, thank you, David. We'll go to Ross Buckley. Ross, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair and members. As part of the early budget action agreement, the Department of Finance was granted the authority to freeze any one-time spending from previous years. This is when the state was experiencing large surpluses. We budgeted on a one-time basis over multiple years. Last week, the Department of Finance sent a formal notification to all state departments that they were officially freezing all one-time general fund spending of over $1 million to help deal with the budget deficit that Mr. Quintana just mentioned. This action was taken so that they have a larger pool to balance the budget by June 15th. And then lastly, to provide a little context on the May revise being moved up, Governor Newsom is planning to travel to the Vatican next week to attend a 3-day climate conference where he'll be joined by other leaders across the world. That concludes my verbal report, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ross. Any questions for Ross? Seeing none, we'll move to our final speaker on the state legislative issues, Paul Gonzalez. Paul?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. I just want to give a brief update on the upcoming deadlines. As you know, the legislature is actually about midway and we'll be wrapping up here in a few months. So April 26th was the last day for policy committees to pass bills that were introduced in their House to the fiscal committees. And May 3rd was the last day for policy committees to pass non-fiscal bills onto the floor. And tomorrow is the last day for policy committees to meet and hear bills that were introduced in their House prior to May 28th. Next week, May 17th is the last day for fiscal committees to pass bills out of their House. And then May 20th through 24th will be floor session only, getting those bills passed over to the other House. May 24th is the last day for each House to pass those bills. And then, of course, June 15th, the state must have a budget bill passed. So moving on, June 27th is the last day for legislative measures to qualify for the November 5th general election ballot. And July 3rd is the last day for policy committees to meet and hear bills. It's also the start of summer recess, which they return on August 5th from summer recess. And then we have the month of August to wrap up, with August 16th being the last day for fiscal committees to pass bills. And August 19th through 31st will be floor session only, with August 23rd being the last day to amend bills on the floor, and August 31st being the end of session. So lots to do in the next really 3 working months of the legislature, and we'll continue to keep you apprised as things progress. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions for Paul? I just have one quick one for any of these state consultants. I think, David, you mentioned the budget was trending down, and one of your reports indicated personal income tax receipts, corporate receipts, state sales tax were down into billions. Is that correct? And any update on that? Because I know this report was a few weeks ago.
Yeah, no, that's the latest update we have. I think the LAO pegged it at about 5.8 billion short. So yeah, that's the latest I have.
And just a quick question. I sit on another agency called the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. We just forwarded our board members a letter that the governor had issued to, I guess, a lot of the executive agencies. Just stop any more funding, stop certain things. Have those letters gone out to anywhere funding towards our policies or our programs? Do you know? Any type of letter like that, or the governor? I know also I said another agency, the Gold Line Construction Authority, trying to get the light rail train out to San Bernardino. We just got a letter from transportation that potential funding was delayed indefinitely. Not bad news, it says, but no funding that was expected at the end of April has now been delayed.
I don't know if South Coast has received. I don't know if that question was aimed at us, the state guys, or was that aimed at the Derek and
state people or staff or anybody that would know? Just curious.
If I could add, you have received letters from CARB talking about the potential for sweepback and the requirement or the necessity of making sure that the funds are encumbered. Otherwise, they would be subject to a sweepback to the legislature. So we have been working to make sure funds are encumbered, getting documentation back to CARB. But thus far, as far as any potential funds, we're certainly aware that there are potential impacts to our AB 617 program. Some of the incentive funds we think could very well be impacted. The implementation funds seem to be holding steady at this point, but we definitely keep a close track in terms of all those grant programs that come to us. And thus far, we haven't heard anything about there will be no funds.
Committee members, any follow-up questions? No. Mayor Salachi, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question to our lobbyists. In January, we saw that the COLA number was 0.7. Do we know what that would be after the May revise by any chance for the year?
I don't know yet, but I would suspect we'll learn a lot more between tomorrow and Monday, and we'd be happy to report back to you and get you that information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, committee member, if I may jump in. So when the governor does his May revise, he'll update all of those numbers for us, and that will be the most up-to-date information that we'll get. Again, we're working off of a couple of weeks old information. And then to answer the previous question just quickly, that is the freeze in state funding. That's what the letters were coming out from. That's the Section 74 of the early action items that every state department has said essentially freeze one-time funding. So that's why all those letters were sent out.
Thank you. We'll move on to the final matters. Other matters, there's item number 5, other business. Any member of this body can make a comment, ask questions. It's for staff. Run. Hold on one second. Did I give time for public comment on those issues? I can't recall. I'll open up anyways, just in case. Is there any public comment on the update on federal or state legislative issues? Anybody in the room? You have 3 minutes. Seeing none, anybody online want to raise your hand if you have any comments on item number 3, legislative issues, or item number 4, state issues? Staff, there's none. Anybody want to comment on item number 5, other business? Supervisor Perez.
Okay. Hey, good morning, everyone. I apologize for being a little late today. Happened to be in the city of Palm Springs, the 12th annual Harvey Milk Day. They had about 1,200 to 1,300 individuals show up, and it's a wonderful celebration of life in the name and honor of Harvey Milk, County Supervisor that was assassinated in San Francisco years back. In any event, that's the reason why I was a bit late, but as well, I just want to welcome everybody to the 4th District within the County of Riverside, to the city of Rancho Mirage. And although I've been here many times to this resort, I still get lost. Couldn't find parking, man. I was like, where do I park? So in any event, just welcome and look forward to today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Supervisor. What a beautiful district. And we'll move on to item number 6, the public comment period. You've got 3 minutes for this meeting. So we'll give you a moment to raise your hand.
Chair, just to clarify, since this is a special legislative meeting, there is no general public comment.
Well, thank you. Oh, thanks, Bay. So we can skip item number 6?
Yeah, item number 6 was just a clarification on that.
We'll go to item number 7. Next meeting date is Friday, June 14th, 2024 at 9 a.m. And this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you, everyone.